Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Chinmayam Vyapiyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. A boy, having confronted death of a near relative, naturally terrified by the name itself, rather than living in fear, wanted to confront it. And at such a young age, he created a scenario where he lay down, giving up all activity of his body, thinking in his mind, how does a person die? A dead person does not move. So he left his body lying down. A dead person does not breathe, so held his breath. Does a dead person think? Maybe stopped his thinking and discovered that he exists beyond these equipments that change, beyond these equipments that perish or die. Having got a glimpse of it, this young boy, Venkataramana, lived in constant contemplation, and from childhood, having developed devotion for Arunachala, and finding out from his uncle that this mountain that is worshipped as a symbol of Lord Shiva himself is in Tiruvannamalai, one day left his home with just 3 rupees of his fees, writing a note that don't waste money in searching me, for I go now not to come back. To reach Arunachal, he pawned his earrings, and having reached there, he threw whatever money he has in the pond of the temple, surrendering completely to Lord Arunachal. This young boy, living in the caves or in the rooms below the temple, remained in solitude for many, many years, till it is said that a great master of knowledge found him, knew his greatness, and then instructed him that what you are constantly turning towards in meditation is your own nature. It is this young boy who became Bhagawan Ramana Maharshi, known not only in India but throughout the world, a man of such silence that when people went into his presence in the sheer silence, many doubts would be cleared. His method of inquiry was so direct that even if a person says, I have a doubt, his inquiry would be, who has the doubt? Inquire into this I. Who is this I who has a doubt? Who is this I who has a want? Who is this I who is sorrowful or miserable? Who is this I who is joyful? When we inquire, who am I, like Ramana Maharshi did, we come to realize that this I, this self, of which I have many notions as I am this limited being, I am a creature that is born, I am a creature that is going to die, I am part of this world. All these notions of this limited I and its consequent selfishness, individuality, sense of doership, attachments, all this, when we inquire as to, am I this what I think myself to be? And in this inquiry, we come to realize that I am free from all limitations. And really speaking, is it that what we want? Isn't it that what we want? That we want to be free. This word freedom also is so badly misunderstood. We want freedom of our country, we want freedom from parents, we want freedom from, people want freedom from spouses. So we have this burning urge in us to have freedom. And without freedom, we cannot be happy either. You might have all the luxuries. You may have all the wealth. You might also be in a relationship. And even in that, people are constantly thinking about, I want to be free. This eternal and internal urge in us to want to be free. And without this freedom, even if we are kept like a bird is kept in a golden cage, or you feel imprisoned in the midst of all comforts and luxuries, we cannot ever feel happy. There may be moments of joys because of forgetfulness and enjoyment of something. But that happiness is there when we are free. And if we ask ourselves this question, we all want to be happy, but are we free to be happy? Can we guarantee that even after 2 hours from now, as you are listening, you can guarantee that you will be happy? Our happiness itself is dependent on so many things, beings, situations, and factors. We are not even free to be happy. We are not free to be peaceful. What we seek is permanence. Even if we come to know that we don't know something, we want knowledge. We are constantly struggling to gain happiness and to move away from sorrow. This eternal struggle that goes on. In our limitations, we begin to wonder, is it possible to be free? Because where there is limitation, there is bondage. This freedom is what is called as mukti, moksha. So are we free to be happy? And in fact, whatever we do, all our pursuits, whether we are pursuing wealth, artha, if you see, because of our sense of limitations, we expect happiness from things and we pursue to possess these things for our needs, our desires, our pleasures, our enjoyment, with the hope of happiness in the future. Thus, majority of the people pursue wealth. Wealth not only in terms of money, but when we have got sufficient wealth and each one's sense of abundance is different, the moment we feel we've got wealth, then we want pleasures to enjoy that wealth. If you feel you do not have enough wealth, you cannot even think of enjoying. First, you want to secure yourself. Then we pursue kama or pleasures, objects of pleasure. And in the process, while we seek pleasures, we could do something wrong, and very often we do. And being intelligent human beings, we have a certain amount of self-awareness as well as the intelligence to recognize the consequences of our actions. And therefore, there is always this guilt, fear, doubt that in my actions, in my pursuit for pleasures, if I have done some action, the consequences of that action can result in me getting contrary results, and therefore sorrow. A person starts doing those actions, what we call as dharma or righteous actions, with the hope of getting something more permanent or even permanent heaven. And in all these pursuits, the person thinks that I am the doer, and this limited individuality with limited actions hopes for a state of permanent happiness. If we inquire that what are we really seeking through wealth, what do we really want from our pleasures, and even why do we do certain actions, even good actions, or even religious worship, or even charity, with the hope of getting heaven and with the expectation that heaven will be a permanent state of no sorrow, a permanent state of pleasure, where we will be eternally happy. But anything that is born as a result of finite limited actions cannot give us that which is permanent. Those who are intelligent to recognize that the result of that which is temporary, that cause which itself is limited, finite, and impermanent, its result cannot be something permanent. Thus, people pursue even good actions, charitable action, righteous actions. But if we inquire, why do we pursue these goals of artha, of kama, of dharma? We pursue wealth to be free from the insecurity, to be free from the needs. We seek pleasures so that we are free from boredom or sorrow. And people do actions, righteous actions, to be free from the result of sins which lead to sorrow. So if you inquire whether it's pursuit of wealth, or it is pursuit of pleasures, or of heaven, performing dharma, with that hope and expectation, it is all to get freedom. And one who realizes that what we are seeking is freedom, and in freedom there is happiness. And freedom is not just from the outer world, but at this moment we are not even free of the results of our actions, the vasanas that compel us into actions. We are not a master of our desires, and even as such, the compulsion of action is so strong that we are not even free to act. We actually only react. And even in doing all religious, righteous activities, we are hoping to be free of our sins. But limited actions, limited results, done with a limited personality, cannot give us freedom. And without freedom, there is no permanent happiness. So whether it's pursuit of happiness, whether it's pursuit of freedom or moksha, it is that inner need in each one of us to recognize what is our natural state. In nature, you will see that when anything, just as water is heated, it is naturally cool. When an artificial energy is applied to it, it becomes hot. But when the fire is removed from underneath the vessel of water, the water tends to get back to its natural state of coolness. Same way, our desperate pursuit for happiness, our desperate pursuit for permanence or immortality, that's why we are afraid of death, we don't want to die. Our pursuit to know, and in a comical sense, we want to know everything about everybody else. That's why gossip columns are the most popular in all media. We want knowledge. And the moment we are told that you cannot know this or you don't know this, immediately we pursue knowledge. And the great masters discovered that this compulsion in us is there because all this immortality, knowledge, and happiness is our nature. In short, what we are seeking is infinitude, beyond all limitations. And therefore, whenever we feel anything is limiting us or is an encumbrance to us, generally we experience that only when we want something and something or someone is stopping us, or we find ourselves incapable of gaining it. We feel our sense of limitation. But it is far deeper than that. And therefore, that which is infinite, that which is beyond all limitations, is called the state of enlightenment, mukti, liberation, and we seek it because it is our own nature. And since it is our own nature, it can be gained only through knowledge, because we are ignorant of our own infinite, greatest nature. And if we want to get off from these limitations, discover that unlimited, infinite, immortal, conscious bliss. And this can be gained only through the knowledge of oneself. All other practices are means to develop this discrimination, this self-awareness, this recognition, and the clarity of what we are really seeking and how we can attain it. This is the gist of all our scriptures, books of knowledge, and of great masters. There's a story in the Puranas that there were a group of ascetics living in the forest, performing elaborate rituals. And when I use the word rituals, various actions, specialized worship, and in that, what they were aiming for, what their goal was, that as a result of those actions, they should get mighty powers. They're called as siddhis, attainment. And they were constantly doing these elaborate rituals to get these powers. And with these powers, you develop greater ability to attain what you want. They were sincere, and to bless them, it is said, Lord Shiva took the form of a mendicant and came there as a sadhu, and these people who were busy worshipping did not even notice him, did not even consider him in any way worth giving him attention. And even though they were performing all these rituals, they were not ready for knowledge. When neglected, when that handsome sadhu left from there, the wives of these ascetics who were living in the forest, they followed him. When they saw that the wives were following this sadhu, they got very angry and they rushed after their wives. But meanwhile, the story says that Lord Vishnu took the form of Mohini, and she was so attractive that they all started chasing her. And suddenly Mohini disappeared. Anything enchanting or the enchantress disappears. And when she disappeared, suddenly they came into their senses. And rather than recognizing that how they were not masters of their minds, they were not masters of their desires, and even though performing all these actions that they thought were dharma to get some power or to get some higher world, and that they had not even mastered their mind, their desire, their infatuations. And therefore they started blaming this on the mendicant, and they went there to him and with their powers tried to fight with the Lord of Power himself. And when they were fighting with him, with all their powers, they lost. And when they were humbled, they realized that this is not some ordinary siddha, not some ordinary person, but much more powerful than them. And this is something that we have to realize. Any amount of wealth, someone can have more than you. Any amount of power, position, somebody can be more powerful. And someone who has a higher position or can even take your position. They realized that what all they have attained through these years of practices has neither made them free from their own sinful thinking, as well as they did not even have that powers. And when humbled, they sought refuge in this great Siddha, and they discovered that he was none other than Lord Shiva himself. And they asked him for instructions, that we have done such practices, yet we are so limited. We are not peaceful, we are not happy, we are still craving for more power. It's never enough. If you understand this about our life, not about just those ascetics in the forest, with no amount of power, position, wealth, enjoyment, do we experience this state of freedom, where we are free of limitations, we are free of our sorrows completely, and most of all, that we are free to be happy. And Lord Shiva gave them the instruction and unfolded for them the complete spiritual path. And there was a poet, Murugnar, who when he came to this portion, he was translating the Purana, and when he came to this portion, he felt that Ramana Maharshi, from his direct knowledge, would be able to translate this in Tamil. And the essence of teachings of Lord Shiva, he captured in 30 verses, originally in Tamil, and later on he himself translated it into various languages, including Sanskrit. And that is what is Upadesh Saar. And in the following days, these very crisp and direct knowledge of how we unfold our personality and the place of karma, action, bhakti, devotion, yoga, and jnanam, knowledge, and how we can attain this liberation here and now with knowledge. And how do we prepare ourselves for this knowledge, not just information, is the essence of Upadesh Saar. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.